Hey everybody, Neil Thompson from Teach the Geek here. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Later today, I'm actually going to a conference. I'm really keen on listening to some of the speakers to see how well they do, especially when it comes to timing their presentations. Let me ask you all if this has ever applied to you. You've been in the audience of a conference. You're looking at the agenda. You see what time the person is supposed to start and finish, but they don't start when they're supposed to start, and they don't finish when they're supposed to finish, which ultimately throws the whole agenda off because the next person starts late, and the person after them likely starts late, and now you know there's slippage in the schedule of the conference. So what can we do as a presenter to avoid that, to make sure that that doesn't happen? Well, firstly, you need to practice. If you're given, let's say, 15 minutes to give a presentation, don't take 16, don't take 17. And if you practiced, you shouldn't take 16 or 17 because you should have practiced to finish before even the 15 minutes. I say finish within 13 minutes because oftentimes when you practice the 13 minutes, the day of the presentation, you may very well say something that you didn't practice. And at least you still have this buffer to play with in the event that you do say something that you didn't practice. And also, when you go a little bit under the time that you're allotted, what it also does is in the event that the person before you went over time, if you practiced, if you actually give the presentation that you practiced, you could still finish within the allotted time so you can get the schedule back on track. It's just it's very disrespectful, I find, to the audience when you go over time. And it's also disrespectful to the conference organizers. They're trying to run a tight ship. They're trying to run everything on schedule. And you're basically, as the presenter, saying, I don't care about your schedule. I'm going to talk as long as I want to talk, and that's that. And that's just not cool. Now, there are instances where you might be woefully under time. Let's just say you're given 15 minutes, you practiced your presentation, but on the day of the presentation, you were very nervous and you sped through the presentation, and now 10 minutes in, you're done your presentation, but you were given 15. So you have this 5-minute difference. So what do? I'm a big fan of having questions that you have answers to. Have a list of questions prepared with answers prepared. Because in the instance that you ask a question or you ask after the presentation, do people have any questions? I mean, I've been certainly been to the conferences where the presenter asks that and it's crickets. No one says anything. So now what do? Again, you still have this time to fill. If you had a list of questions, you can basically go through those questions and answer them. So here's a way to queue up those questions. When I was when I was preparing this presentation, I thought there were various questions that you as the audience might have. Here's one of them. And then you ask that question and then you answer it. And then you do it again for another question. And then maybe another one. And then you do that to fill up the time if that's appropriate. And I think it's very appropriate because you were given 15 minutes after all, and you finished within 10. At least get to 13 minutes and call it a day. And I think you certainly can do that if you have a list of questions with prepared answers. And then you, after you ask that first question, you ask and answer that first question, you can ask again whether someone has a question, or maybe even has a question based on the answer that you gave to the question you asked yourself. Sometimes people just need a little bit more time to figure out what the question is. I certainly have been in that situation where the presentation ends, the person presenting asks if you have questions, and I don't have a question yet, but maybe a minute or two in, I do. And if you, as the presenter, have filled that time asking and answering a question that you prepared, well, now I have that time to figure out what my question is, really formulate it, and then I'm able to ask it. And now we're back on track with the schedule. So just to recap, you're giving a presentation. You have a certain amount of time to give the presentation. You don't want to go overtime because that throws the whole conference schedule off track. So what do you do instead? You practice your presentation so that you finish before the allotted time. I said in my example, if you're given 15 minutes, finish within 13 minutes. You have 2 minutes of buffer to play around with. Especially in the event that the person that went before you goes over, you can still finish within the time. And then if you're even further under time, I'm saying, with my example, it was 15 minutes and you finished within 10. Have a list of questions that you have answers for, and you can ask yourself those questions and answer them. That also gives the audience more time to figure out if they have questions to ask you. Hopefully this has been helpful. Again, my name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe.